Yeah, thank you, Heather. So yeah, it's a privilege to be here today, and we got the graveyard shift at the very end of the day. But so well done, everyone, for making it thus far.
Yeah.
Hope it's been a great day for everyone. I am the co-founder of Enigma Ventures, and Enigma Ventures is a venture capital fund. We're 3 years old now, and we're focused on only investing in female-led and founded businesses across Africa. As was said earlier this afternoon, I'm a founder myself, so I've been on the other side of the table, grew a business from zero to hero, and sold it in 2018, and have now moved over to what I considered the dark side, and became an investor to back other women like myself on the journey of entrepreneurship. So what was the other piece of the question was, what do people really need to know?
Yes, what would be the key, I guess, challenge that you find on your side of the fence?
Well, I've been on both sides of the fence.
The current side of the fence.
The current side of the fence, I think investing, I naively thought sitting on this side of the fence was easier than sitting on the other side of the table and being the entrepreneur and having to do all the work to grow and scale a business. The challenge for female fund managers, which is what I am now, an investor, is really how hard it is to still raise capital as a female fund manager. So not only is it hard for women to raise capital as an entrepreneur, it's also exceptionally hard to raise funding to invest and to be trusted with capital to invest. And I think naively I thought, having been on my own entrepreneurship journey and built a successful business, that it would be easy to convince people to back me, to back other entrepreneurs, with the idea that I might know what I was talking about. But that's also really hard. So the fundraising journey is never easy for women. So that's maybe the exciting thought I'd kick us off with.
Thanks, Sarah. Tendai, so yes, would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tendai Mugabe, and I'm the Senior Program Associate at ANDI, and ANDI stands for the Aspen Network of Development Entrepreneurs. We're a global organization that helps propel small and growing businesses through our members who are the educators, the financial investors, the DFIs, the support service providers who help small and growing businesses. And what has been exciting and probably also challenging for us at ANDI is learning that investors tend to evaluate men-led startups with a reward lens and women-led startups with a risk lens. So it has been exciting for us to develop grant-making facilities that can help close the financing gap that women entrepreneurs are facing.
Thank you so much. Tebogo?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having me. My name is Tebogo Mokoena. I am the co-founder and CEO of a fintech startup called Akiva Digital, and we essentially are building an alternative credit scoring infrastructure to enable small businesses in Africa, as well as consumers that can't be scored by traditional bureaus, access financing a lot easier. Primarily operating in South Africa and are now scaling into Kenya, but really our mission is to build a Pan-African business. One of the key challenges that I've had as one of the few female founders who've now raised over $1 million in funding and in actually pre-seed is that I think during that raise in particular, it's incredibly hard to find capital in South Africa. I know it exists, it just doesn't exist in the form that appeals to someone that looks like me. And so one of the things that I had to do was obviously incorporate the business in the US just to appeal to an international, network of investors, and that's where most of our capital has come from. So outside of really access to capital, I think for female African founders, It's also the issue of valuation. So most women-founded businesses, regardless of the scale and potential to essentially, become more profitable businesses, is that they turn to be valued way less than other founded businesses, and I just struggle to find the logic there. But yeah, that's been one of the challenges.
Thank you, Deboho.
Me next.
Yes, please, Mina.
So, hello everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to be part of this discussion. So, I'm Menna Shaheen, co-founder of a startup called Tekeya. And at Tekeya, we repurpose surplus food. So, we allow food providers to sell their surplus food with 50% discount on our application, or they can donate it directly to charity. And we are having more than 50,000 registered users on using our application, and we are based in Egypt at the moment, and there is a plans to expand to other countries. So, talking about challenges, so as a founder, a female founder, and as a founder of a social impact business, the first thing is talking to right people. So sometimes you are talking with an investor who's only keening about business like fintech. And when you're talking about your business, the first impression is, are you a donation? Are you charity? The understanding of the social impact business is not common. And especially when the female is founding it. So it's like, most probably she's just doing something for fun, So this is the first thing. The second thing, and I think everyone is facing it, is having the right team. So I learned it the hard way. They are saying that hire slow and fire fast. So you need to take your time to hire the right people. And either they are co-founders, or they are like part of your team, because it's not only if they having the capabilities, they need to believe, they need to have the passion, they need to can be integrated in your culture and your startup culture. And then if you find someone that making issue with your business, you need to fire him, because the impact will be major. You are having this emotional, because you are a small company, you're so emotional, you're saying, he's like, we having this relationship, we love each other, but this doesn't work. So this is the challenges, like the two major ones.
So it's the empathy issue. Makes it hard. Thank you. So you'll agree with me, this is a quite extraordinary brains trust we have up here. So we've got about just over 15 minutes, and I'm going to probably take all of the time, but I know that we're the last panel, so if there are questions, it would be really good. I don't think you'll get a lineup like this very often, so I wanted to ask you something, to start off with something that you raised when we were talking earlier. You spoke about becoming investor ready. And I think the stat we just heard, that 16% of money has gone into women-owned businesses in Africa, with a slightly higher percentage in South Africa. That's a bleak statistic, and it does not reflect the value that women-owned businesses contribute in terms of value creation. But it is, I think, a challenge that almost every startup and every entrepreneur wrestles with. So I wanted to ask you if you could just talk a little bit about what it means to be investor ready, what needs to be in place for any startup.
Okay, so what we have seen at Andy is we have developed initiatives where we are helping the startups become investor ready. So we've just started a pilot program where we will be having 50 women come to our program, and with that program they will be getting all the necessary details of how to become investor ready. So they will be learning how to pitch, how to have the right papers, the tax clearances, and how to just really get to be ready to pitch their businesses to the right investors. However, we do know that sometimes it is hard to say they should be, to teach them investor readiness. You know, you need to, we need to also get the investors on board as well. So we're also trying to help change the mindsets of the investors and get them to also look at the women at the women and understand how they need to also play their part by having that gender lens and knowing that these women are investor ready. So that's what I can say.
Okay, so it's partly a paperwork thing, partly admin, it's partly just the confidence.
Yes.
And I think in an earlier panel, there was a beautiful conversation about confidence, which I thought really was powerful. So there's partly the confidence in the pitch, and then there's partly just proper matchmaking with the business and investor. Sarah, if I could just, is there anything that you would like to add to that? And also you spoke when we were chatting earlier about the notion of risk and the perception of risk as it is associated with certain startups, primarily female startups. Could you maybe expand a bit on both those things?
Yeah, and maybe to expand upon the investor-ready piece, I think there are some of the issues with investing in women. Are women tend not to think big enough and tend to think about building small businesses. And because there's been a lack of role models and because there's been a lack of women who've already paved a path already, that we don't know necessarily what this looks like and how we're supposed to be thinking. And so for us, you know, the keys have been, do you know your metrics? How long do you think it will take you to get to $1 million? How big do you think this can be? You know, where are you going? What's the trajectory that you are on? Because we like any normal investor, are looking for women who are thinking big, who believe that their solution to the problem that they've got is world-changing and, you know, nation advancing. And, you know, that's what investors are looking for. And so we can't afford, women particularly can't afford to play a small game. We've got to play the big game that everyone else is playing. And so knowing some of those rules and being investor ready is largely about, can you tell a story that's convincing and big enough? And do your numbers and your metrics make sense to tell the story around this is where we're going and this is who we're going to be in the next 5 years? And can you tell that story? And so I think in connection to risk, risk is also connected to thinking too small, right? And so how do we lever risk with, you know, it's still the perception of investing in Africa is still it's a risky place to invest, right? But we are early in the life cycle of investing in Africa. And when you think Silicon Valley is maybe nearly 50 years old now, really the ecosystem, the startup ecosystem in Africa is maybe 4 or 5 years old. We're at the very beginning of the journey of venture capital investing in the continent. So, you know, startups here have an uphill battle because we have to also convince investors that investing in the continent is not risky and that you are not you are a good bet and that you are the future. And for those of us who are early adopters, the opportunities are enormous right now because there are more startups than are investors. So there are more opportunities to look at every day than there are investors scrabbling for those opportunities. Investing in Silicon Valley these days, it's cutthroat because everyone's fighting for the same deals and trying to do deals. That's not the case here, which is hard for entrepreneurs, but it's a huge opportunity for investors to be looking at wide open markets that have, you know, untapped potential to solve enormous problems and create enormous change. So risk is all about perception and how we're presenting things and how we're pitching and how we're thinking. And again, also comes back to confidence and how women present. And women often come across presenting and thinking too small. And we've got to stop doing that. We've got to stop selling ourselves short because we're just as capable, just as able, and maybe not such good bullshitters. that's unfortunately a large part of what this takes, is can you be confident enough to put yourself out there and say, this is what we're going to do, and this is what we've done so far, and we are going to make this happen.
Thank you, Sarah. You also spoke about the relative risk of investing in male-owned companies and female-owned companies, and how female-owned companies actually show up quite well.
Yeah, if you look at the stats, actually, the statistics for women businesses surviving after their first sort of 3 or 4 years are better. Women tend to create more profitable companies earlier. They tend to last longer. They tend to employ more people. In fact, in every metric that you could possibly throw at women-led businesses typically tend to perform better, which nobody ever really believes, but that's what the stats tell us. Women are better at investing the profits that they received investing in their communities. Women pay back loans better. I mean, just almost in every characteristic, we win.
And we have fewer car accidents.
And we have fewer car accidents. There we go.
Yes, I have stats on that.
Tebogo, you knew how to tell a great story. You and your co-founder have just basically cleaned up in a way that I think is iconic for startups in this country generally. So tell us a little bit about, you mentioned that you felt that that women often tend to be I think you used the term over-mentored and under-financed. And that very often comes from a slightly, it's sort of an outdated but also a paternalistic idea that you referenced about that it's a hobby, that your startup and your business is a kind of a hobby. But tell us about the storytelling that you felt that you needed, that you had to step into in order to achieve. I mean, aren't you the only unicorn? You are, aren't you? You're
Not a unicorn yet.
not a unicorn, but you're heading in that direction.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the
So
goal.
tell us about your story.
Yeah.
Yeah, storytelling.
I think before I touch on my story, I kind of want to touch on a few things that have been mentioned around, being prepared as a female founder, being prepared for capital. And I think one thing I want to challenge there is for male founders, they turn not to need mentoring in order to access capital. And for some reason, the ecosystem has fabricated this notion that for women to access capital, they need to be mentored and kind of panel beated into this version of what investors are comfortable in investing. And I honestly don't think that is necessary in any way. And it really doesn't. I mean, I would be interested to see what the stats looks like, whether women who get panel beated through mentorship or over mentoring end up building successful businesses versus those that don't. And I feel that is actually counterintuitive because it tells women that without the mentoring and over, incubation and accelerators and all of those things, then you just can't access capital, which I don't believe is true or is necessary. And the reason why I'm saying that is because most women are in fact capable of building businesses. They have been. More than 50% of businesses in Africa are built by women. And these may be smaller businesses because for every dollar that gets, that women get, at least from a VC perspective in Africa, $25 goes to a male-founded business. That's a huge gap. That's a 25-fold gap that we probably won't be able to bridge in our lifestyle, in our lifetime. And certainly not if we spend more time trying to get women to paint the perfect story in order to get financing. And so in my personal opinion, in my journey, I think I really adopted this notion of I'm going to build a business that makes sense, that solves a real problem, that has a way to scale and impact a lot of people rather than trying to fabricate a perfect story to appeal to investors. It still is my stance. And maybe that's why I'm not getting financing or funding in South Africa. I don't know. But I truly believe that I don't necessarily need to speak, in this most perfect and tailored way. I create a story that will appeal to VC, but in fact really build a business that is sustainable and has impact. And that's kind of been my focus. And I guess that somehow appealed to investors who really wanted to also solve a real need and have a real impact on the continent.
So that speaks a little bit to that theme of correct matchmaking. You met the right investors who shared your vision, understood the principle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I want to echo her because unfortunately for women, you need to do proof of concept. So you need to show your numbers. So instead of focusing on how beautiful your business is or if it's working or not, you need to focus that proving there is a product market fit. You need to focus on the customer acquisition cost to decrease it. You need to focus on scalability. And if you focus on all of this, because we tend to leave this and focus on day-to-day business activities, and if it's working, if it's not, and we don't focus on the finance, and we don't make a good relationship with money and numbers. And this is so important to prove yourself and to get the right investor. You have to show evidence, and this is what we need to do for the moment, not just telling a story.
And I think that echoes what Sarah says about metrics, figures, vision, expectation. That's the story that you need to be able to tell. Look, I think that's true for everyone. But as you say, if the starting point is the perception that it may be a hobby, or it may be a little thing you're doing on the side, I think you need to be that much more kind of clear. It's just that usual thing of having to just work a bit harder to actually establish credibility. So your business, is largely in the kind of the benefit, the value that it creates. A lot of that value is in the social space, and there are many people here today and certainly my passion as well. It's in social impact, and how can we leave the world a better place than we found it, and how can along the way people live better lives because of the work we do. And so, have you found in terms of telling your story, finding support for your business, finding your community, have you found that sort of supported your initiatives, or was it part of the thing that you're just got a hobby on the side?
So I believe now for women there is a lot of support because, as we said, there is less access to fund. Many organizations and institutions they know that, and they're trying to compensate that. So you find a lot of support for women, and I found many opportunities that if a man I couldn't get it, to be honest. So I think it's a positive side that we have this issue, but people are working on it. But having in general the idea of social enterprise is not people cannot really digest it as a very successful business. Even we are benchmarking with a similar business that now a unicorn. So still people think, if it's having a social impact, so there's not many, lots of money will come, from it, and the revenue will be low or something like this. So as I said, it took time, and especially we are the first entrance in Egypt, and we needed to increase awareness of everyone, of the food providers using our application, of the users, of the investors, of everyone, to increase the awareness about the issue. And that our business is to make everyone involved in having an environmental impact and fighting climate change. So this is the beauty of it. I mean, the beauty of it, the more we are helping the environment, the more we are generating money. So, and the more we are growing. So I don't think something is better than that, But to make everyone understand, it's like a long journey for us, and we are. I'm not saying we are there, but we are having a very good progress at the moment.
Oh, thank you. Time's up, it says. So, just last words before I let you go. Let me start with you, Tendai.
Okay, so with me, one of the key lessons that we at Andy have learned is the need to train and educate the capital providers on the needs of women entrepreneurs. You know, it's important that we need to recognize the unconscious biases that exist within the investor processes and systems. So that's what I can let you know. We have a great program, great grant-making facilities that have actually got a lot of learnings and reports and statistics that show that we can actually close this gender financing gap.
We can close it.
We
Good.
can.
Tebogo?
Yeah, I think for me, closing remarks would be for anyone who is looking at this gender lens investing, and it's, you know, might be important for most corporates, etc. I think instead of focusing on providing just another mentorship program or another accelerator or incubator, rather provide women the capability to access market and something that's going to be valuable to their business in a meaningful way than really checking a box off, right? Because a lot of those accelerators, and again, this is my humble opinion, it requires so much time that we probably don't have. And so it ends up taking away more than actually giving to women. And at the end of it, if we were to calculate the number of time, you know, and return that women get at the end of all those programs, it just probably doesn't amount to anything impactful. So maybe something to reassess. And then for women founders as well, to Sarah's point, you're probably building a much larger business than you're making it out to be. So probably 10x whatever projections you have on your pitch deck would be my only advice. Yeah.
10x, right? Important figure. Nina, last word from you?
So I hope we have more faith in women, because the idea, any woman having an idea or starting an idea, it's never like 100% right, or it's never gonna work from the beginning. So if the women behind the idea like can pivot and can think and can adapt and can run a business, this is what we should look for to give a fund. And for women, same, like they need to have the courage, they need to ask for what they want and what they need, and they need to also believe in themselves, not to believe in the idea. So don't be fond of the idea, because you will change it a lot, but be fond of yourself and what you are capable of doing.
I love that, thank you. And then, and then Sarah, last word from you.
Women just need funding. Women need cash. There are highly capable, highly skilled, with great women with great ideas, and we just need to fund them. And if we do that, we'll close the development gap, we'll close the gender lens gap, we'll move Africa forward, and the world will be a better place. So we just need to get on with it.
Right, that's it from us. Our time really is up, so I guess we're all around. So if there are any questions for any of these panelists, find them outside. And thank you for the opportunity. It was fun.
Fantastic. Thank you, ladies. Hello to all of you. Hello, Sarah. Good to see you. I'm guilty as charged for talking all of you up big, because I think as a storyteller in the ecosystem, it is my privilege to be able to promote all of you. Mena for being Women in Tech for the Global Startup Awards. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Akiba's pre-seed raise is literally unheard of. I mean, you're breaking barriers left, right, and center. So cheers to you.
Thank you.
Tendai, we're grateful to Andy for writing these reports, for sharing them, your educational workshops you do behind the scene. Congratulations to you. Heather, to your team, thank you for sponsoring this. Thank you for literally making this dialogue accessible to a broader audience, not just here in the room, but the digital legacy that we shared with everyone else. And then, Sarah, I'm guilty as charged, because you have done it. You built a business. You sold it. You came back and you told other women to do the same. And, for that, we're grateful. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.